Hi, welcome to the replay of Pathways to Possible. The webinar originally aired on April 7th, so all of the questions you hear were answered live. If you have any further questions, please visit goodreasonhouston.org/postsecondary-readiness. Enjoy the replay.
Buenas tardes and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Citywide Coalition on Education, Pathways to Possible, a community guide to college and career readiness. I'm Sandra Rodriguez, and I'm the Executive Director at Latinos for Education and one of the Coalition's Executive Steering Committee member. Bienvenidos a una conferencia web presentada por el Citywide Coalition on Education, Caminos hacia la Posibilidad. Mi nombre es Sandra Rodríguez, directora ejecutiva de Latinos for Education y miembro de comité ejecutiva de la coalición. Gracias por acompañarnos. I want to welcome Shirley and Jorge with Ronquillo Group to guide us through today's interpretation services. Le doy la bienvenida a Shirley y Jorge con el grupo Ronquillo para que nos guíen en el servicio de interpretación.
Buenas tardes a todos, mi nombre es Shirley y estoy aquí con mi cointérprete Jorge. Estaremos interpretando entre inglés y español durante la sesión de hoy. Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Shirley and I'm here with my co-interpreter Jorge. We'll be interpreting between English and Spanish during today's session. Estamos aquí para asegurar que todas las personas participando puedan comunicarse, entender y ser entendidos en el idioma que se sientan más cómodos, pero no podemos hacer eso solos. We're here to ensure that everyone participating can communicate, understand, and be understood in the language in which they feel most comfortable. However, we can't do it alone. Para los presentadores de hoy, pueden ayudarnos hablando a ritmo moderado, voz alta claramente y uno a la vez. Si necesitamos que hablen más despacio o más fuerte, le dejaremos saber subiendo la mano. Si ven estas señales, por favor, ayúdenos a recordar a la persona hablando. For those presenting today, you can help by speaking at moderate pace, loudly, clearly, and one at a time. If we need you to speak slowly or loudly, we'll let you know by raising our hand. And if you see this, please help us remind the person who is speaking. En un momento se encenderá la interpretación de Zoom y verán un globo en la parte inferior de sus pantallas con un mensaje sobre la interpretación de idiomas. Hagan clic en el globo y elijan el idioma en que les gustaría participar y escuchar durante esta sesión. Todos deben escoger un idioma. In a moment, the Zoom interpretation will be turned on, and you'll see a globe in the lower part of your screen with a message about language interpretation. Click on the globe and select the language in which you'd like to participate and listen during the session. Everyone is asked to select a language. Si nos acompaña a través de su celular o tableta, pueden hacer clic en los 3 puntos en la esquina derecha de la parte baja de su pantalla. Elija interpretación de idiomas y después seleccione su idioma. Asegúrese de hacer clic en finalizando y estarán listos. If you're joining to your smartphone or tablet, you can click on the 3 dots on the bottom right corner of your screen, select language interpretation, then choose your language. Make sure to click on and you'll be set. Organizadores, ahora pueden encender la función de interpretación y comenzaremos a interpretar en un momento. Gracias. Organizers, you can now turn on the interpretation function and we'll start interpreting in a moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shirley. We are very excited to be here with you tonight. Before diving into the mission and vision for this evening, I want to take a moment to ground us in what the Citywide Coalition on Education actually is and why it exists. The coalition was formed as a response to a shared recognition across Houston that no single organization can solve the challenges facing our education system alone. Over time, nonprofits, educators, community leaders, and advocates came together to align efforts, elevate community voice, and push for solutions that are both research-based and rooted in lived experience. And so that spirit of collaboration is really at the heart of this coalition. So with that context, let me walk you through our mission. At its core, the coalition is about mobilizing organizations across Houston. It's not just about working alongside each other, it's about aligning around what works. That means advancing educational policies and practices that are grounded in research, but also shaped by the communities most impacted. We believe these two things have to go hand in hand. And looking ahead, our vision builds on that foundation. We see the coalition as a unifying force, a collective that not only raises awareness about the issues impacting education in Houston, but also pushes forward a shared education-focused agenda. So ultimately, everything we do is aimed at one goal, making sure that every student has the opportunity to reach their full potential. So this isn't just about coordination, it's about impact, equity, and long-term change for students across the city. I want to take a moment to introduce the group of leaders helping guide this work and who you'll be hearing from today. So the citywide coalition is led by a steering committee made up of organizations deeply committed to improving outcomes for students across Houston. Each of these leaders brings a unique perspective from advocacy and policy to community engagement and family partnership. So you'll hear from several of them throughout today's session. I'm joined by Judith Cruz, Assistant Director from Ed Trust, who brings deep expertise in education equity, and policy. We also have Jasmine Colvin, Managing Director of Policy, and Trista Bishop Watt, Director of Government Relations from Good Reason Houston, who are both leading critical work around advocacy and systems change in our region. And Jessica Faith Carter, founder and CEO of the Parent Teacher Collaborative, who ensures that family voice and their lived experiences are centered in this work. And so together, this group represents a collective effort across organizations and roles to push forward solutions that truly support students and families. So as we move forward on today's conversation, you'll hear from each of these leaders as they guide us through different parts of the presentation. So I want to share a quick reminder for those who have just joined us. For monolingual Spanish speakers, if you just joined the meeting, please ensure you click on the globe in the lower part of your screen with a message about language interpretation. Click on the globe and select the language in which you'd like to participate and listen during this session. If you're joining through your smartphone or tablet, you can click on the three dots on the bottom right corner of your screen. Select language interpretation and then choose your preferred language. Make sure to click on done and you'll be set. Thank you. Un recordatorio para los que apenas nos están reuniendo con nosotros. Para nuestros participantes hispanohablantes, si acaban de unirse a la reunión, por favor, asegúrense de hacer clic en el icono del globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla, donde verán un mensaje sobre la interpretación de idiomas. Hagan clic en el globo y seleccionen el idioma en el que desean participar y escuchar durante esta sesión. Si están conectando a través de su teléfono inteligente o tableta, pueden hacer clic en los tres puntos ubicados en la esquina inferior derecha de su pantalla. Seleccionar interpretación de idiomas y a continuación elegir su idioma. Asegúrense de hacer clic en listo o done y ya estará todo preparado. Gracias. Ahora, I'd like to invite Judith Cruz with Ed Trust to share with us what a strong future for a student looks like.
I want you to ask yourself, what are your hopes and dreams that you have for your own children, for the children that you work with, or for the children in our city? There's nothing more inspiring than seeing a student reach their full potential. The promise of our public schools is that every student receives a high quality education and leaves prepared for their futures. Today's webinar is going to be about how we make sure that every single student gets the preparation they need to reach their full potential. We want every student to graduate ready for the real world. That means giving them the tools they need to succeed in college, connecting them to training for careers that actually pay a living wage, and ensuring no student has to guess their next step. Next slide, please. And through clear pathways and dedicated mentorship, we're making sure that long-term stability is a reality for every graduate. So again, making sure that they have the tools, the resources, connecting them to those careers and those real life experiences. I have the honor of introducing Ashley Marroquin. She's a high school student. Ashley is a senior who just wrapped up applying to colleges. She will be the first in her family to attend college. She has big dreams, as do her parents for her. I am amazed at Ashley's tenacity and drive for her future. And Ashley, like all of our students, deserve to have every opportunity and support available to create the pathway of their dreams. We will hear from her today on what that preparation has been for her. Ashley, turning it over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley. I'm a senior for the High School of Law and Justice. A little bit about myself is that I really love cats. Cats are my favorite animal. I'm part of the Alma Latina Club. It's a dancing, it's a dancing club, and I'm also part of the AIDS program, where it's for students that are interested in architecture, construction, and engineering. I also very much love arts and crafts, and I'm a squad leader for junior RTC. I plan to attend Texas Tech University and double majoring in architecture and civil engineering. And hopefully with these degrees, I am able to partner up with my brother who wants to go into real estate. The reason that I decided to double major is because I'm really interested into architecture. I love everything about it. I like that it has math and I love that it has creativity into it and it just aligns with all of my interests. I also chose civil engineering because I think it will give me a great insight into my architecture, and I think I can put in my engineering skills into my designs and make it easier for those who are actually constructing my buildings. I think what one of the things that have really prepared me for college is my AP classes and my armors classes because they give me a step into how actual college classes are gonna be. They make me study on my own. They make me actually ask for help and look for resources on my own. I also like that my church is able to give like activities where we can spend times with our friends and outside of home. So that also has really teach me to be independent, to be able to wake up for myself, put myself a sleep schedule, and also be able to clean up after myself and be able to choose what I actually do with my time. I I wish I had more support from my college counselor because I know that they're busy because they have to manage 3 or 2 schools, but it just since my school is really small, I know that I guess our school is kind of like the last priority because other schools have at least like 1,000 kids and my school is like 100. So it kind of just puts us in the back and it's hard to keep up with the days that our college counselors also is actually there. I also found a lot of trouble finding going through FAFSA since I'm the first person that's gonna go to college in my family. So my parents don't really know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. So I needed to find outside help. And but one thing that I did like is that my school had a parent night and they explained how our graduation is gonna work, that we're supposed to have our personal essays done and to apply for scholarships and things like that. And I also like that they have interpreters for our parents that don't speak English. That was really helpful, especially for my parents, so they could actually understand what's going on. And one thing that I wish I also had is more preparedness for my ACTs because ACTs are very important for to get into college because that's how you see how college ready you are if your reading level is appropriate for college and your math skills. And I just wish I had more resources to actually study and for me to have studied earlier than just my senior year or my junior year because it really goes into it and you need a really long time to actually prepare. I I also wish that the translations were more accurate, especially like in websites from like schools, because there's been times where I've been my parents are trying to read something, and then my parents are like, wait, what does this say? And then I had to go up to them and be like, oh, well, I think they meant this because the translation is a little bit wrong. And it just makes things confusing. And yeah, and I wish that we also had like scholarships mentioned to us sooner than just senior year, because right now it's a lot you have to prepare for graduation, you have to prepare for your college applications to actually choose where you want to go, and have your credits for school to be able to graduate. And college universities are very expensive, and I wish I had applied to scholarships way earlier as a freshman or a sophomore in high school. And yeah, but I am very grateful for the help that I have received from my schools and from outside help too. And I am glad that I have the opportunity to go to a university that I like and be able to study one of my greatest passions. And yeah, thank you.
Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your personal journey with us, your experiences. You really bring to life the topic that we're talking about today and how important so many levels of support at every step of the way are what you and so many of our students need to be able to be successful and to really get firm footing on that pathway to your dreams. So thank you again for being with us and for sharing that. Next slide, please. So graduating is a milestone, but being prepared is really the goal. And CCMR, you'll hear that term tonight, college, career, and military readiness is the term that we use in the state of Texas. And it's really how we move beyond the diploma to ensure that our students have a head start on their futures. So whether it's through college level credits, like Ashley mentioned that she's taken, or industry certifications, we're really focused on preparation. And for our families, CCMR really can provide the clarity needed to ensure that their students are truly prepared for the future that they choose. So think of this in two parts. First, we have the A through F system, and maybe you've heard of this, or maybe you hear that your school is an A, or you hear about other schools having different grades. And this system in the state of Texas measures if we are getting students ready before they walk across the stage. So things like passing advanced tests or earning a professional certificate. These milestones are required by districts. They have to demonstrate that students have some sort of preparation. On the right side of this slide, the part in blue, you can see that this is called outcomes bonus funding. So this is something like it's an incentive, it's something extra. It's not required by districts. But if districts do meet these measures, there's a financial reward for the district when the students actually take that next step and succeed. So whether that's starting college or earning a credential, but all demonstrating that they are TSI ready. So you might see that term and wonder what that means, but basically it's students demonstrating through a test that they are ready to take college level coursework. So this ensures that students are not just ready for graduation, but they're really on that next step towards their futures. I'm going to turn it back over to Sandra.
Thank you so much, Judith. Again, a quick reminder for those who have just joined us for our monolingual Spanish speakers. If you just joined the meeting, please ensure you click on the globe in the lower part of your screen with a message about language interpretation. Click on the globe and select the language in which you'd like to participate and listen during your session. If you're joining through your smartphone or tablet, you can click on the three dots on the bottom right corner of your screen, select language interpretation, and then choose your language. Make sure to click on done and you'll be set. Thank you. Para nuestros participantes hispanohablantes, si acaban de unirse a la reunión, por favor asegúrense de hacer clic en el icono del globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. donde verán un mensaje sobre la interpretación de idiomas. Hagan clic en el globo y seleccionen el idioma en el que desean participar y escuchar durante esta sesión. Si se están conectando a través de su teléfono inteligente o una tableta, pueden hacer clic en los tres puntos ubicados en la esquina inferior derecha de su pantalla, seleccionar interpretación de idiomas y a continuación elegir su idioma. Asegúrense de hacer clic en listo o done y ya estará todo preparado. Gracias. I'd like now to want to invite Jasmine Coleman with Good Reason Houston to share what the data is telling us about our students.
Thank you. And just warning you all, I know our presentation makes it a little bit hard to see the graphs, but I'm going to try my best to interpret them. Our first graph here, this waterfall chart, does a great job of kind of explaining the reality of our students' journey and where we are as far as successfully getting students through high school, but not consistently getting them to outcomes that lead to living wage attainment. I think as Ashley was speaking about her experience and choosing her school and getting prepared for that, I know it made me think about my own journey of getting prepared for college, and I'm sure it made you all reflect on that too. And so from that experience, we know that every student, it's not the same. Students need different things to be ready for life after high school. And so I think that our education system should make sure that students are supported. And so while 88% of students graduate high school, we see here that that number steadily drops at every step after, with only 47% enrolling in college or training and just 27% actually completing a degree or credential. And then at the end of the pipeline, we see that only 1 in 5 students actually earn a living wage. I believe the living wage is around 43,000 according to 2023 data. And so the key point here from this graph is just that, students should do more than just graduate, and high school should care about more than just, students graduating high school. And so graduation alone is not necessarily translating into living wage attainment and economic mobility for students. And so this is the problem. This is the gap that we're trying to solve. So it's not necessarily access to school, but it's more so access to outcomes that lead to financial stability for students. Our next chart here kind of helps explain what actually leads to better outcomes. The graph on the right shows that in Houston, students who earn industry certifications or a bachelor's degree are more likely to earn a living wage. And this starts early. So the dotted line in the chart represents the living wage at about 43,000. And it shows that the only graduates that are actually achieving that living wage within 6 years of graduating high school are folks with a professional certification or that have a bachelor's degree. And our research also shows that students who earn a credential while still in high school earn 15 to 20% more later on. So the takeaway here is simple. What students earn matters more than just whether they graduate or not. And we have to focus on credentials that have a real value in the labor market once students graduate high school. Apologizing up front, I know this graph is really in the weeds, but looking at it, taking a step back, the differences here are showing differences in salary based off of credentials that can be gained in high school. So, as Judith mentioned, high schools can earn incentives or funding for students that achieve these certain CCMR indicators. And so right now we can see from the graph, I think what's important that just sticks out more, the light blue bar, which is the highest one, shows that students that earn an associate degree earn more. And then looking at the green bar next to it that's going into the negative, that's showing that college prep courses aren't as impactful as, let's say, a student that earns an associate degree. And Ashley even mentioned, the impact of, having a good SAT, ACT score. That's our burnt orange bar on the far left. So what this graph is essentially showing us is that not all CCMR pathways that high schools offer lead to the same outcomes. So some pathways lead to stronger wages in the long term, and others don't really make an impact. They don't really improve a student's future earnings. And so while a student may be counted as college and career ready according to high school standards, that does not necessarily mean that they are set up for economic success in the future. And I think if anyone's a parent on a call, that's something that we look for a school to be able to do to prepare our students adequately for the future. And so this is a critical misalignment between what we measure and what actually matters. So, what's being done? So, in the recent legislative session, through House Bill 8, the state is now studying which CCMR indicators or pathways actually lead to real incomes like wages. So, what's happening right now is by 2033, the accountability system that Judith mentioned earlier will change as it does. It's regularly refreshed. I want to say every 5 years. So schools will no longer automatically get credit for every pathway. Instead, the pathways will be weighted based on their real impact on students' long-term outcomes. So this is a major shift in the way things have been traditionally approached. It moves from measuring participation to actually measuring true effectiveness. And this is a preliminary framework that the state has offered and for what the direction they're taking the A3F accountability system. So the key shift is recognizing that not all indicators have the same impact on student outcomes. The proposed model introduces 3 tiers to weigh the different indicators based on their connection to post-secondary success. So the tiers are going to be determined by TEA analysis in addition to any type of external research that they're doing on outcomes. So an example would be a college prep course will move to a lower tier, while ACT and SAT benchmarks carry more weight. So essentially, a school will be more incentivized for having students reach certain benchmarks on SAT. So the process for this, there will be an opportunity for public comment before the framework is finalized. The proposed timeline would apply the new framework starting with the 2031 accountability ratings. So school districts will be able to put a lot of work in the pathways they offer to students, which a lot of it is already happening in our local school districts. And so the phase of this new framework will allow districts to start planning for any adjustments they need to make and get acclimated to the forthcoming system. So once again, this is a strong step in aligning accountability with real outcomes like post-secondary completion and living wage attainment. So ultimately, it moves the system closer to measuring pathways that lead to economic mobility. Taking a step back here, this graph kind of shifts us into looking into some earlier inputs into that post-secondary pipeline. It shows that what students experience in school directly impacts their outcomes later. So specifically here, we see that students who are on grade level early, for example, in 8th grade, for students that take Algebra 1 in 8th grade And for students that complete a multitude of advanced courses in high school, those students are significantly more likely to earn credentials and higher wages later on in life. And so, as you can see here, these aren't small differences, and these are predictable indicators of future success. So, I think the message here is that improving outcomes doesn't start in 11th or 12th grade, that students, parents, families should be concerned about these things as early as elementary or middle school. So it starts much earlier with academic preparation and access. And school districts have already done a lot of work to make sure that students are able to have access and take advantage of early access to Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And so, lastly, our key takeaways is that first, only 1 in 5 students are reaching a living wage in the Houston area. That is a core problem. Secondly, credentials matter. All credentials, all CCMR pathways are not made the same, but there are ones that are actually tied to strong outcomes for students. And thirdly, not all pathways are created equal, and so our current system doesn't fully reflect that. Early academic experiences matter, and success is built long before graduation. So, if we want to improve post-secondary success, we have to align what we measure, what we prioritize, and what we invest in with what actually leads to economic success for students. And now I will pass it along to Trista.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you, Jasmine. Now that we've talked through, sort of what the data looks like in our Houston region, what this means for our students, and what the state is doing, there's an opportunity to think through what local school districts can be doing and what we all can be advocating for that can help our students and ensure that they have the opportunities after they graduate that they deserve. So we've put together 5 recommended policies that help drive student success. First, access to college and career advising. Second, access to advanced courses. Third, high quality career and technical education pathways. Fourth, aligning goals, data, and resources. And then finally, reinvesting in what works. And so all of this at a high level sounds like a lot of work that our school districts are doing, and many of them are. But there are ways to improve each of these processes through policy to ensure that they're meeting the needs of students and families across Houston. Well, diving right in. So, you heard a lot from Ashley earlier about the support that was available in college and career advising and what additional advising could have been more helpful for her as she was working through the courses that were available and the opportunities that were available to her and completing the FAFSA. So, at the end of the day, having a high quality college and career advising policy at the local district level allows every student and family to receive effective support in navigating college and career opportunities so that they can make informed decisions about their future. And what that looks like is first starting early. It doesn't have to start just at the advising level. Students need access to different career opportunities, exposure to the types of careers that are available so that they can make effective decisions about what's right for them. So starting early with career exploration as early as elementary school helps students navigate the different options. And then finally, continuing that through high school with individualized advising. Next, an advising policy can help students choose courses, pathways, and opportunities aligned to their specific goals. So, effective individual advising ensures that advisors are providing comprehensive information about all of the things that matter for students to be successful after high school. It can also ensure that advisors have the time and capacity to support every student by specifying a maximum student to counselor ratio so that they have time, as Ashley mentioned earlier, to have these individual conversations with students and the capacity to really internalize what each student needs. Research shows that a student to counselor ratio of about 200 to 1 is really what we're looking for in our school districts to ensure that they have everything they need. Even less than that is even better. And then finally, providing accessible information to families in their primary language, as Ashley mentioned earlier. We don't want those types of language barriers to prevent families from being able to make informed choices and to understand all of the options and opportunities that are available to their student, whether that be dual credit courses or work-based learning opportunities. There are plenty of opportunities that need to be provided to families in a language they can understand. Next slide, please. Next up is access to advanced courses. So at the state level, the state of Texas now requires that students that have qualifying STAR scores in math get access to advanced math pathways automatically in middle school so that they can ensure they're on track to take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. This was a huge step forward for the state of Texas, but school districts are not limited to just middle school math. There is an opportunity to expand automatic enrollment in advanced courses all the way to high school core courses. So the big idea here is that all students who are ready should have access to advanced courses that help them build strong academic skills, earn college credit, and graduate better prepared for college and careers. As Jasmine showed you earlier, access to those advanced courses has a meaningful impact on students' ability to earn a credential and ultimately a living wage. So the more courses that students are able to access, the better it is for students. And barriers like requiring families to automatically opt their student in can prevent some students from accessing them. So school districts here should consider automatic enrollment for students who meet readiness benchmarks and core advanced courses rather than requiring them to opt in, even in high school. Some districts are already doing this and seeing a lot of promise for their students. Next, maintain family choice by allowing them to opt their student out, but with advising support so families understand the decision that they're making there. And ensure families and students are properly notified of advanced course decisions so that they have the opportunity to weigh what is best for each of their students. Ultimately, the goal here is to have policies that support students in accessing those advanced courses and ensuring every student that's prepared to take them has the opportunity. Next, high quality career and technical education. As you saw earlier, not all pathways lead to the same outcomes, and that is true for different credentials as well. So the idea here is that CTE pathways, career and technical education pathways, should connect to strong credentials and real careers in Houston that offer meaningful wages, so students are set up for success when they graduate. And what this looks like is ensuring as a district that they are aligning programs to high demand living wage careers using job market data, student outcomes, and industry trend data. So the more that we can look at what the Houston workforce needs, the easier it is for districts to be able to provide pathways for students that align to those job opportunities that exist. The unfortunate truth is that Houston actually imports a lot of our talent from other places when we have students graduating from high school that need meaningful career opportunities. So districts can regularly review and update their CTE pathways to ensure that they remain relevant and effective based on what the changing job market looks like in Houston. As we all know, AI and different technologies make things shift pretty rapidly, so districts have to be nimble and look at the data to make sure that pathways still align. And then they need to make sure that they have transition plans in place for programs to ensure that students can still complete a program if they're partway through and the pathway gets updated. Next, aligning goals, data, and resources. The big idea here is that what gets measured gets funded and prioritized. So when we, as community advocates, push for districts to align student outcome goals to the district budget, that means that the decisions that they're making around resources are directly aligned to the results that we want to see for our students. And publicly sharing that data with the community allows for parents, students, and community members to follow how well schools are set up to prepare students for college and career. And what this looks like in practice is setting rigorous but clear college and career readiness goals for all student groups. This is required by law, but the level of rigor varies from district to district, and how well they are being monitored varies from district to district. The district can annually demonstrate during their budget process that they go through every year how funding decisions advance those specific student outcome goals at school board meetings so that the public and the board can follow along about how those resources actually supports the student outcomes we want to see. And then finally, regularly tracking and sharing progress on key indicators like credential attainment, financial aid application completion, and post-secondary enrollment helps ensure that the public has a full picture of how districts are supporting student progress. Last up, I think that we've actually managed to duplicate this title, but last up, we're looking at reinvesting the funds that we get as districts from the state's outcome bonus funding back into programs that work. So this means that success should fuel more success, especially when it's tied to state funding. These are funds that districts are often leaving on the table that are available to them if more students actually achieve meaningful measures of post-secondary readiness. So currently, Texas only requires 55% of those funds to be reinvested back into college and career readiness programming. And what we're recommending here is that districts actually go further than that, and that districts commit to reinvesting 90% of those outcome bonus funds to support college and career readiness on an ongoing basis to ensure that success perpetuates even more success. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Trista. Okay, now I want to take an opportunity to introduce an amazing person. She is a leader in the community. She is a mom. She has children in HISD and one in college. And she is also an alum of the Latinos for Education, Familias Latinas por la Educación. I want to welcome Perla Ramirez, and she will be sharing her story and her experience throughout the process and supporting her children.
Hola, buenas noches a todos. Sí me escucho bien, ¿verdad?
Sí, Perla.
Ok. Bueno, pues mi nombre es Perla Ramírez. Soy originaria de México, del estado de Tamaulipas. Tengo dos hijas. La mayor tiene 18 años. Está en el último año de preparatoria. Tengo otra niña de 12 años y está cursando actualmente el séptimo grado. Ambas estudiantes de HISD. Soy trabajadora de tiempo completo, soy cajera en una tienda de Chiplis Donuts y esa es una breve introducción de mi persona. Buenas noches. ¿Quieren que hable como referente a mi opinión de lo de lo que se está hablando ahorita, de cuál ha sido el apoyo que en mi experiencia ha recibido mi hija en cuanto a la high school,
Sí,
como para,
Perla,
ok.
sí.
Bueno, pues inicialmente, como experiencia personal, puedo decir que no fue muy grande el apoyo en respecto a consejería para llevar una orientación como en el momento en el que ella como estudiante lo solicitó, lo necesitó. Más que nada siempre fueron terceras personas siendo maestros, porque ella también está en el programa de ROTC. Entonces, por parte de la maestra de donde está ella en ese programa, más que nada fue como la conexión para que la consejera en sí tomara mayor en cuenta cosas, cambios que a veces ella quería hacer en sus materias. Eh, Puedo decir también que creo que antes existía, no estoy hablando mucho si es wraparound services que tenía HASD, pero creo que era otro departamento que desconozco en realidad ahorita al momento del nombre que existía. Ellos se enfocaban también mucho en ayudar a los alumnos como en esa conexión, en esa transición para colegio. Y eso fue una de las cosas que mi hija ya no alcanzó. Entonces yo siento que como que esa parte se rompió mucho como para ellos el poder sobrellevar más el proceso y la transición de lo que es enfocarte en lo que tú vas a querer estudiar y las herramientas que te puedan ayudar para alcanzar y hacer una transición al colegio. Por parte de ella, lo que le benefició, puedo decirlo así, que desde que estuvo en middle school estuvo adelantando créditos de high school y ya estando en high school adelantando créditos de colegio. Entonces, esa es una buena herramienta que ellos tienen como para poderse beneficiar y no llevar todas las materias o poder reducir tiempos también, como actualmente ella ahorita sale a las 2 de la tarde, si tal vez no hubiera llevado o adelantado nada, y era el horario normal hasta las 4 de la tarde. Y ya tiene ella ciertos créditos también que son para el colegio. La decisión de ella fue comenzar por estudiar en el colegio comunitario por 2 años y posteriormente ir a la UT Health otros 2 años. Eso es lo que ella en su análisis pudo determinar que es lo mejor para lo que ella quiere estudiar. Ella quiere ser higienista dental. Y pues bueno, como mamá, pues me siento muy orgullosa de ella, de que a su corta edad pues se haya podido direccionar y enfocar en qué es lo que ella quiere hacer y quiere lograr. Y pues se ha esforzado porque a veces no es fácil llevar materias de doble crédito, y siempre pues tratar de mantener buenos grados y buen promedio. Y pues en mi experiencia personal, también lo que observo mucho es que ya al padre se le limita mucho la participación en esos aspectos, como uno estarse comunicando más directamente, como ya sea maestros, consejeros o algo, siempre lo limitan mucho porque la visión de ellos siempre es que ya el estudiante por sí solo vaya agarrando las riendas de lo que ellos quieren hacer y cómo conducirse, pero por ellos mismos. Por una parte estoy de acuerdo y por otra a veces no tanto porque también el padre tiene que estar completamente informado como de las cosas que puede su hijo aprovechar y cuáles no. En mi caso, pues siempre fue mi comunicación con ella, qué es lo que estás haciendo, qué es lo que vas a hacer y pues siempre tratando de orientar con mi poco conocimiento porque me considero ignorante mucho en el aspecto en la transición de colegio a universidad aquí en Estados Unidos. Eh, pero al final de cuentas, pues siento que recibió las herramientas, tal vez no al 100% porque como les digo, siempre faltó como el enfoque o el empuje más para ver de dónde puedes obtener un recurso, una beca. Como mencionaba la niña anteriormente que compartió su experiencia, que a veces también es como ese apoyo para que hagas tus ensayos, para cuando aplicas para una universidad, un colegio, o igual cuando vas a aplicar para una beca, como ese soporte para que las ideas de ellos se plasmen más sólidas en una aplicación. Lo que me gustaría tal vez más respecto de las escuelas, ya hablando más de high school, es de que se le diera un poco más este apoyo a los estudiantes, porque muchas veces pues siempre van a tener la duda de qué dirección tomar, pero cuando tienes el apoyo suficiente y te contestan tus dudas y tienen la disponibilidad de apoyarte, siento que sería más fácil para ellos tomar una decisión y observar qué herramientas hay a su alrededor para ellos seguir esforzándose y lograr una meta, porque al final de cuentas, la meta no es terminar la high school, la meta es continuar después de high school y qué herramientas tienen ellos para seguir adelante, porque también necesitan una motivación, no simplemente decir, ya terminé la high school y ya. No, es ¿qué sigue más adelante? ¿Qué puedo hacer yo más adelante? ¿Qué puedo obtener yo? ¿Qué trabajo me va a dar el nivel de vida que yo estoy buscando? Entonces pienso que influye mucho también los recursos que las escuelas quieran implementar para los alumnos, para que ellos logren todas las metas o las proyecciones que ellos tengan de vida para un futuro y tomando siempre en cuenta que de ellos es que sigue el apoyo para las siguientes generaciones. Entonces, de esa idea parte mi pensamiento de que se debería de dar un poco más de enfoque y más ayuda en ese aspecto para ellos, para que ellos puedan sobresalir y lograr lo que ellos quieren hacer en su vida. Esa sería mi opinión. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Perla. Gracias, Perla. Eres una mamá ejemplar. You're just an amazing mother, always supporting your daughter. So thank you for everything you do.
Muchas gracias.
I want to take a moment and invite Jessica up next.
Great, thank you. And so, as we come to a close, I do want to take a moment to thank both of our speakers for sharing their insights and experiences. Ashley, thank you for bringing a student perspective into this conversation. And Perla, we really appreciate you for just grounding us in the experiences of families. Your voices are so important, and we truly appreciate the work that you are doing to help us in this conversation. And so our presenters today shared a lot of information, and our hope is that we can work as a coalition to take action to improve post-secondary outcomes for students in our city. Strong policies do matter because they can create long-term change, but policies do not move on their own. They move when communities understand them, believe in them, and speak up in support. And so if we want graduation to lead to real opportunity for every student, we really do need more than just good ideas on paper. We need families, we need educators, community members, and advocates helping to build that momentum around these policies. And so there are a few simple but important ways that we all can take action. First, share information with your network so more people can understand why these policies matter. Second, reach out to your local school board trustees and let them know that you support policies that expand opportunity after high school. And third, sign and share the petition to support student success so that decision makers can see that there's a broad community support behind this work here in Houston. This petition is a simple but powerful way to add your voice, and it signals to our local leaders that our community cares about post-secondary readiness and wants to see these policies prioritized. So you can scan the QR code, and we'll also send out the slides after, so it'll include the link. But every signature that we get really helps build that collective voice that's needed to move this work forward. Next slide. And so as we think about that call to action and what it looks like to support students beyond graduation, we also want to make sure families have access to tools and resources that can help along the way. I think this is Very important considering what we just heard from Perla and the parent perspective. So I want to just kind of go over a few resources that can support families as you think about the pathways to possible. First, there's Texas On Course, which offers free tools to help families understand graduation requirements and plan post-secondary pathways. We have Tomorrow Ready Texas, which connects education to career pathways and helps families plan for life after high school. College Possible Texas provides hands-on coaching to support students through the college application process and beyond. College Spring helps students prepare for SAT and ACT exams with accessible test prep support. Bottom Line offers one-on-one advising from high school through college completion. Grad Cafe by Project Grad provides tools for college planning, financial aid, and career exploration. One Goal supports students over multiple years to build skills and systems for college success. Bridge Year helps students navigate the transition after high school and plan next steps. And Momentum Education focuses on coaching and systems that help students persist in college and into careers. This list is not exhaustive, but it is a strong starting point for parents who are looking for support. I also want to emphasize that your child's school is an important resource. So if you have questions or are looking for, better ways to support your child, we encourage you to connect with your school counselors, teachers, and administrators. Sometimes it may take a little or a lot of persistence, but definitely communicating your needs and working with them to support your child's future. And we know that there are many great organizations doing this work. So if you are familiar with other CCMR resources or organizations that have been helpful to you or your community, feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat so we can continue learning from one another. We'll be sure to include them in the slides as we share them after today's webinar.
All right. See some questions in the chat that we'll go ahead and answer live for folks that haven't already had their questions answered. So Diana asks, while economic outcomes are important, particularly for students earning minimum wage, I wonder how prioritizing high wage pathways may overlook students' genuine interest in other fields. How might this shape their decisions and in turn limit intrinsic motivation and the diversity of disciplines needed for creativity and innovation? And this is a great question, Diana. So want to be clear first of all that when we're talking about wages here, we're not talking about a minimum wage, we're talking about a living wage. So this is the wage that is necessary to be able to live in Houston and have all of your basic needs met, right? And so when we're looking at pathways, we want to make sure that what districts are prioritizing are pathways that lead to those living wages after students graduate. However, in no way do we want to encourage districts to take away from other opportunities that are available for students for creativity and other paths through extracurricular activities and after school activities. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it is a student's and a family's decision what types of pathways is right for them and their student, right? We just want advisors and school districts to be thinking about the pathways that are going to lead to students to better outcomes and provide that information transparently to families and students so that they can make informed decisions. That doesn't mean that the other pathways can't exist. It just means that in terms of resourcing, priority is given to those pathways that lead to the living wage that again is necessary for anyone in Houston to have their basic needs met. Okay.
I can take that next question from Diana Olmos Guzman. And this one is for Perla. Perla, the question here says, I believe Perla is talking about communities in school. When you were talking about a program, we want to get clarification. Were you talking about communities in school, Perla?
Okay.
Perla.
Sí, ¿me puede repetir la pregunta, perdón?
Claro que sí, que tenemos una pregunta de Diane Olmos Guzmán, donde pregunta si el programa que usted estaba hablando es el programa de Communities in School.
El que era de parecido como a Wraparound Services.
Algo así, sí.
La verdad no estoy bien familiarizada exactamente con el nombre, pero yo tenía entendido por una persona que trabajaba impartiendo eso, pero en otra escuela diferente a la que mi hija está. Era mucho a lo que ellos hacían con los niños, era como ir a visitar los colegios, ir a visitar lugares donde se impartían carreras enfocadas a la salud, a la ingeniería, cosas que ellos tenían el interés y ellos iban directamente con los niños que ya eran para del año de senior para ver esos lugares o fábricas, lugares donde, de diferente, de variedad, de muchas variedad de trabajos, o sea, como todas las inquietudes de ellos más o menos trataban de enfocarlas. Y pues a mí me parecía eso grandioso, porque pues es también como ya verlo de vivo y saber exactamente como qué es lo que, si es exactamente lo que ellos estaban buscando. Entonces, no nada más era eso, o sea, eran muchas cosas y actividades que se hacían con ellos, pero al final de cuentas ya el tiempo que mi hija empezó la high school ya eso ya no está en la escuela.
Listo. Entonces, una organización que los expuso a su hija a diferentes carreras. Gracias, Perla. También tengo otra pregunta aquí donde dice, esta viene de Ruby Rivera y dice, quisiera yo escuchar su perspectiva como padre. ¿En qué maneras usted am, agradecería recibir comunicación? ¿Cómo quisiera recibir comunicación y qué tan temprano quisiera recibir esa información?
Pues me parecería importante prácticamente desde el año que ellos inician la preparatoria, comenzar como ya desde ese tiempo más o menos a dar una orientación más cercana a qué es lo que ellos quieren, a qué es lo que ellos quieren estar obteniendo de los consejeros o de cualquier otra persona que les dé una dirección. Y tanto la comunicación sea también con el padre, no tan 100% porque como ya lo expliqué antes, siempre quieren ellos que sean ya más independientes, casi comenzando desde lo que es la secundaria. Pero sí me gustaría como que desde inicios de que ellos comienzan se les fuera dando como una guía para que ellos vayan tomando una dirección. Sí.
Gracias. Gracias, Rubí. Gracias. Otra pregunta, dice para ti, Perla, dice, ¿qué tipo de apoyo quisiera recibir como padre mientras su hija esté en el colegio para que se la pueda apoyar?
Pues en mi caso, yo soy cabeza de familia. Entonces, pues ya por ejemplo, ya en este momento, pues ella ya aplicó para FAFSA. No sé en realidad cuál va a sea la cantidad que ellos vayan, que sea el apoyo, porque todo esto es nuevo para mí. Entonces, pues siempre es importante como que ellos sigan teniendo acceso a recursos, a becas o apoyos, o si ellos pueden participar en alguna organización y de esa parte de esa organización ellos pueden también transmitirle a sus compañeros, a los niños que vienen detrás de ellos, orientarlos y de esa manera también pueden recibir alguna bonificación y ellos también apoyarse para sus estudios. O sea, no simplemente es como, ten, aquí está este dinero, úsalo para la escuela, sino que también pueden como involucrarlos y de ellos mismos compartir su experiencia y yo siento que esa es una manera también en que los demás niños se van motivando y no solo se van motivando a seguir estudiando, sino que se van motivando porque saben que hay personas, hay organizaciones que les están dando la oportunidad de que ellos también puedan participar y puedan ser ejemplo para las generaciones que vienen detrás de ellos. Entonces, yo siento que eso sería una un muy buen apoyo para ellos, que no simplemente sea, mira, ves este lugar, aplica aquí, ves acá, sino decir, mira, yo te ofrezco esto, vas a recibir una gratificación para tu escuela, pero tú también te vas a involucrar y yo quiero que tú también enseñes a los que vienen detrás de ti y los motives para que ellos sepan que hay recursos que se pueden usar, que te van a beneficiar y que tú puedes seguir estudiando y ellos a la vez van agarrando experiencia en lo que viene siendo el ámbito laboral, porque a veces si se enfocan simplemente en la escuela está perfecto, pero también les falta esa otra parte de saber cómo es el ambiente laboral. Esa es una opinión muy personal mía.
Muchísimas gracias, Perla, por compartir tu historia y tu experiencia.
Y
Ahora
gracias a
sí,
ustedes también por escucharme.
gracias. Trista.
I'm gonna cover just a couple more questions, and anything we didn't manage to do, we can follow up with in the email afterward. But first, somebody asked, how can the public confirm the outcome bonuses are actually reinvested? And one of my colleagues was able to share there is a dashboard that the Commit Partnership out of Dallas has created so that folks can track the types of what funds districts are actually receiving for the outcomes bonus and how much they could be receiving if they maximized it. But we would encourage districts to share this information as part of their annual budgeting process so that the public and the board understands how those funds are being reinvested. So that's what we would encourage here through policy. Secondly, somebody asked if there was a resource for where we can see what credentials lead to a living wage and what data sources should districts use to measure if alumni are earning a living wage. That's a great question. So the research that we referred to here was actually done by 4 universities across the state of Texas, that big complicated graph that we showed. And that shows different pathways, not specific credentials, but different pathways and the differences in earning outcomes. We can link that study as well in our follow-up email. But for specific credentials, there are 2 things through the state that help differentiate. So first, we have what's called credentials of value. Those credentials of value are ones that the state has determined lead to a return on investment on top of what a student has spent to get the credential. And then, secondly, the Texas Education Agency is also weighting industry based certifications within the A through F system. So they have a list of industry based certifications and it breaks them into 3 different tiers for how closely they're related to post secondary outcomes. So we can share these resources in the follow up email. But I want to thank everybody who joined us for our webinar today. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question, but we will try to answer it offline and get those answers to you along with all of the resources that we have shared. Thank you so much to our student speaker, our Spanish, our parent speaker, and our Spanish interpretation services. So thank you to Ashley and Berla and Shirley and Jorge for joining us today and help making this accessible for everybody. Everyone have a great evening.